Nvidia on track to open the day right around $120 a share. And you're not reading that incorrectly, but that really points to what is happening or what happened after the bell on Friday, that 10-for-1 stock split. And that actually follows this dramatic rise that we've seen in the stock really since the start of the year and what we've seen over the last year and a half. Now, this move here adding to investor excitement surrounding AI, a trade that really has not shown any signs of slowing down. So what's ahead? We want to bring in Bob O'Donnell here. He's the president of TECHnalysis Research. Bob, a lot to talk to you about with Nvidia, and we'll get to Apple here in just a second. But first, talk to me about the significance of this and what you think the reaction is going to look like in the markets over the coming days.
Sure, Shauna. I mean, look, the beauty of a 10-for-1 split like this is that the average person who couldn't afford that Nvidia stock can obviously jump in. And there's a lot of people who've been hearing about it. As Brian said, 5 years ago, nobody heard of Nvidia. I did, but not a lot of people.
Hey, I never questioned you, Bob. Never questioned you. I knew you were all Nvidia. I knew. I get it.
All good, Brian.
Okay.
All good.
Okay.
Anyway. No, but look, obviously that opens up a lot of opportunities for other people to jump into this AI play. And the reality is, look, they have positioned themselves incredibly well, Nvidia. Not only do they have the chips, they have that software, and that CUDA software has become the magic glue that people are attaching themselves to allow companies, organizations, big, all the big foundation model guys to use NVIDIA stuff to drive these new services. Interestingly, we'll see if Apple actually does that. That'll be an interesting side discussion. But the bottom line is everybody else, OpenAI and IBM and all these other companies that are doing large foundation models and everything else, it's all being run on NVIDIA. And as individual companies start to do some of this work themselves, of course, some of them are starting to buy these devices. So, the competition is heating up. AMD has never had stronger offerings. Intel is finally getting its Gaudi 3 act together to accelerate. We've got a bunch of smaller companies, but it's going to take a while for these guys to catch up. AMD, of course, is the one that's got the most opportunity in the near term. But it's a tough road for these competitors against NVIDIA because they have cemented themselves in such a strong position.
Bob, over the weekend, I was reading a really cool Evercore note, and they are predicting more than $60 a share in earnings by 2030. Now, if you go to Yahoo Finance, click on NVIDIA, go to the stats page, analyst consensus shows about $27 a share this year. I mean, almost a tripling in earnings through 2030. Is it crazy to think by 2030, NVIDIA is by far the most valuable company in the world, and it's about a $5 to $6 trillion market cap company?
Well, certainly if things keep going in the way they are, that's absolutely within the realm of possibility. But let's think about a couple things. Number one, as I started to mention, competition is getting much tougher. And the truth is, nobody likes, especially in tech, to have one company completely dominate the way that NVIDIA is right now. So you're going to see a lot of companies being more willing to try alternatives just to give them some leverage when it comes to working with NVIDIA, which of course they will continue to do. Number two, anybody that's that big, you start to worry about regulatory concerns. What are the issues around that could pop up? And then finally, and the biggest question is, what if the way we start to do Gen AI changes? We've started to hear discussions. Apple's going to talk about this later today, doing some of that stuff on the device. That doesn't require the NVIDIA chips. These big foundation models driving this, starting to shrink in size, so therefore perhaps I need a little bit less compute. These are the bigger tech questions, implementation questions that we have to watch long term. They're not going to change overnight, to be clear, but those are the big picture questions that, by 2030, certainly I think are going to be a factor.